Welcome to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast, your weekly news roundup of hunting, fishing, trapping, and conservation stories from around the Gem State. Hosted by Fish and Game's Public Information Specialist, Connor J. Lease.
Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin podcast. Lots to talk about today, including bears in the Enforcement Bureau, the new fish regs getting a facelift, and a raccoon attack in Cassia County. But first, from two catfish records broken less than 3 weeks apart by the same angler to one of the smallest state record fish ever caught in Idaho, it's time to wrap up the top big fish stories from 2024. In total, 2024 had 7 new state records, which included 4 certified weight records and 3 new catch and release records. Making the cut this year are the following angler trophy stories, starting with Lucas Barnett. Lucas Barnett knew he had hauled up a monster channel catfish on October 7th, 2024, a 34.25-inch tank that had been calling Caldwell's Rotary Pond home for quite some time. Lucas was so confident that the fat cat might wind up being the new state catch and release record that he submitted the state record application later that day. Before State Sportfish Coordinator Martin Koenig could even process the October 7th application, he received another telegram from the same angler, this time reporting an even larger 37.5-inch channel catfish from the same pond caught on November 1st. Amazingly enough, both records would have put Lucas at the top of the state catch and release record board, edging out the previous record holder by an inch or two. But it was the second catfish that ultimately solidified his name in the record books. In yet another incredulous record fish story that passed torches in a matter of weeks, Montpelier resident Austin Christensen capped off his June 1st fishing trip with a 27.25-inch tiger trout. Now, for those unfamiliar, a tiger trout is a sterile hybrid between a brown trout and a brook trout. Christensen was fishing his home waters of Montpelier Reservoir when he landed the 9.13-pound trout, clinching a new certified weight state record. Funny enough, Christensen's tiger trout snuffed out fellow Montpelier resident Tyson Lutz's record tiger trout, which had just been caught just 15 days earlier. Lutz had hauled in his 8.3-pounder on May 17th from, you guessed it, Montpelier Reservoir. Tiger trout were introduced to Montpelier Reservoir in 2016 and can be found in a few select places across Idaho. You can find stocking information using the Idaho Fishing Planner and learn more about state record fish on our website. For this next one, we're talking about West Slope cutthroat trout. West Slope cutthroat trout are found in rivers and some lakes, primarily throughout central and northern Idaho. They rarely exceed 20 inches, which makes Daniel Whitesit's April 13th catch a memorable one. Whitesit of Post Falls landed a new catch and release state record for West Slope cutthroat trout while fishing the Clark Fork River in northern Idaho. After landing the fish, Daniel recorded the required measurements and photos to document the fish's impressive length before releasing the trout to fight another day. At 25 inches long, Whitesit's fish eclipsed the previous record of 24 inches set by Madison Nakos in 2021 from nearby Priest Lake. Cutthroat trout are Idaho's state fish, and the West Slope cutties are one of 3 subspecies native to the state, along with the Bonneville and Yellowstone cutthroat trout. And if you're looking for a little cutthroat inspiration, check out these cool native trout in one of our new short films called A Cutthroat Story, available on our YouTube page. All right, again, we go with another West Slope cutthroat trout story, but this time it was tipping the scales the other way. Chubbuck angler Spencer Smith was wetting a line up at Alpine Creek Lake number 14 in the Sawtooth Mountains, enjoying a warm August day with little to no hopes of hooking anything record-worthy. Now, before you accuse me of hot-spotting this one, Alpine Lake number 14 isn't your neighborhood fishing pond. You won't find a parking lot, a vault toilet, or even a campground for miles. This Alpine mountain lake is like many other lakes found in the Sawtooth Mountains, remote, charming, and holding mountain cutthroats. However, it happened to be Spencer Smith's luck that fine August day when he hooked what he immediately thought might be a contender for a state certified weight record, West Slope cutthroat trout. While this trout's size may not be impressive, the effort needed to certify it as a record definitely was. Smith successfully reeled in the 11-inch cutthroat trout, but then proceeded to pack the fish out of the mountains and had it weighed at a certified scale near his home in Pocatello. When the record application got dropped on Fish and Game Sportfish coordinator Martin Koenig's desk later that week, the 0.56-pound fish marked the first West Slope cutthroat trout that made it into the certified weight record book since 2016, when Fish and Game started keeping separate records for each subspecies, including West Slope, Bonneville, and Yellowstone cutthroat trout. Here's Martin Koenig.
Back in 2016, we overhauled the state record fish program and started awarding catch and release records, but we also made other changes. One of those included making separate categories for each of the cutthroat trout subspecies. West Slope cutthroat are catch and release in most places, so it took a while before we got a certified weight record application for a West Slope cutthroat trout.
That is all I got for this story, and I feel like I'm only selling you half a horse here. So if you want to see these record-breaking fish for yourselves, hit the link in the description to check out this article. All right, moving on to raccoon news. On the evening of December 23rd, Fish and Game officers received a report from the Cassia County Sheriff that an infant had been attacked and injured by a raccoon in his parents' home. Officers from both agencies responded and determined that the infant was in an infant carrier while the mother was settling in after returning home. She heard a loud noise in the home and ran over to the infant's location. That's when she found a raccoon attacking her child. The mother was able to grab the animal to stop the attack. Now, the jury's still out on how the raccoon gained access to the home. The infant's father was later able to dispatch the animal. Fish and Game took possession of the raccoon carcass and coordinated with staff from South Central Public Health District to get the raccoon tested for rabies. Fish and Game staff transported the carcass to Boise for testing by the Idaho Bureau of Laboratories, and the results were negative. Once notified of the incident, staff from the Magic Valley region activated their Wildlife Human Attack Response Team. The specially trained team of department staff has the responsibility to act to protect the safety of the public, and incident responders attempt to identify, locate, and control the animals involved in a human-wildlife incident and conduct, document, and report what they find. While raccoons are a common species across Idaho, reports of attacks on humans are extremely rare. And while raccoons have a reputation as a potential carrier of rabies, only one case of raccoon rabies has ever been documented in Idaho. Raccoons are generally shy and will typically avoid humans, but they can become aggressive if they feel threatened. As with all wildlife that can be found around our homes in Idaho, the best course of action to avoid raccoon encounters is to take preventative actions before a problem starts. Raccoons can live in a variety of habitats, but an area with access to water and food will attract them. A homeowner can limit food sources by securing residential garbage, removing any fallen fruit or rotten produce from your yard or garden, feeding pets indoors, keeping pet food securely stored, and removing or securing bird feeders. Blocking raccoon access to hiding places in sheds and outbuildings and sealing off potential entryways and exits in and around a home will also discourage raccoon use. For more on this story, check out Terry Thompson's press release on our website. Link in the description. All right, next up, a story about a bear pinning on an enforcement badge and working for Idaho Fish and Game. All right, if you're picturing a black bear rumbling down a Forest Service road in a Fish and Game truck, I'm sorry to disappoint you. That's not quite what this story is about. Indeed, we are proud to announce Officer Bear's latest appointment to the Fish and Game enforcement team, albeit of the canine variety. Canine Officer Bear, a black Labrador Retriever, joined the Southeast region this fall and works alongside Senior Conservation Officer Colby White of Montpelier. Bear hails from a long line of award-winning hunting competition dogs belonging to Don and Jackie Wall of Boise. Historically, Fish and Game's canine program recruits dogs that are around a year old, but Bear was showing such promising signs as an overachiever retriever that Fish and Game was able to recruit him on at only 4 months of age. Official canine training and certification will not happen until the spring of 25. In the meantime, Bear has been learning obedience, practicing patience with occasional office work. I'm assuming typing up spreadsheets and unjamming the printer. He also enjoys long drives in an enforcement truck, enjoying lots of field work, bonding with Officer White, and getting used to new experiences that come with the job. So, what goes into being the right dog for the job? Well, certainly having a real quote-unquote nose for crime is important, but it isn't the only desirable trait of a Fish and Game canine officer. These dogs must be a sporting breed rather than a German Shepherd or a Malinois, which are typically used for other law enforcement agencies or the military. Additionally, they must exhibit a high hunt drive as well as a high play drive, which makes these dogs teachable. Before choosing Bear as his canine partner, White looked at multiple dogs. Bear thoroughly impressed everyone that evaluated him, and to quote Officer White, quote, "He had great drive and a great personality. I also felt an almost instant bond with Bear," end quote. Bear has continued to impress everyone since he joined the Southeast region, and it goes without saying he's probably everyone's favorite Fish and Game employee down there, unless, of course, you're a poacher. Bear has excellent customer service skills, getting along with everyone he meets, and you can tell he loves being White's canine partner. If you're listening to this and have always dreamed of becoming a canine enforcement officer, hit the link below to read Jenny Jackson's full story on our website, which includes some more insight into the canine enforcement history. On behalf of all the listeners and those of us at the Hook and Bulletin, welcome to the team, Bear. Next up, it's time to take a gander at the new fishing regs. Here's to a happy 2025, folks, and surely at the top of everyone's New Year's resolutions is reading the brand spanking new 2025 through 2027 Idaho Fishing Seasons and Rules booklet. No? Oh well, hopefully you will read the new Fishing Regs booklet at some point during the year, and you may notice it looks a little different. But before we get into that, if you're already familiar with fishing in Idaho and just want to know what changed, check out the cheat sheet page on page 7 that summarizes all the seasons and rules changes. If you dive a little deeper, you may notice Fish and Game reorganized the information in the new booklet to make it more user-friendly. It starts with a pared-down version of what you need to know to go fishing. Basic license requirements are followed by the statewide rules, then by general seasons and bag limits for each region. Each region also includes a full list of special rules waters that you should be aware of because they differ from the region's general seasons and bag limits. You may also notice a consistent layout that features a regional map, general seasons, and general bag limits for each region, and the list of waters that have special rules within that region. For salmon and steelhead anglers, there's a booklet within a booklet approach that consolidates all that fishing information into one area. If you're new to fishing in Idaho or just new to fishing in general, don't be overwhelmed by the 80-page seasons and rules booklet. Yes, fishing regs, and even hunting regs for that matter, can seem complicated. And to be truthful, they are. And that's partially by design. As Fish and Game Director Jim Fredericks points out in his letter to anglers on page 3, Idaho has more than 40 species of game fish in 26,000 miles of streams and rivers, 3,000 natural lakes, and 250,000 acres of ponds and reservoirs. Fishing regulations aren't one size fits all, and although there's a lot of standardized statewide rules, there's also variations so anglers get the fisheries management they've asked for in different waters. But back to how to simplify it, which is outlined in the beginning of the booklet. There are about 5 simple questions you need to answer. 1, do I need a license? Hint, if you're 14 years or older, the answer is yes. 2, what are the statewide rules that apply everywhere? What region are you fishing in? What are the general seasons and bag limits for that region? And is the spot you're fishing a special rules water? Now let's say you already have a fishing license and are generally familiar with the statewide fishing rules. Here are a few shortcuts you can use to get the exact information you need. 1, use your computer, phone, or other devices. The entire 2025 through 2027 Seasons and Rules booklet is online, so as long as you have internet or cell service, it will be available. You can also download a digital version of it to your cell phone so that it's always available. You can also use the Idaho Fishing Planner. This can be a great shortcut if you know what body of water you want to fish. Simply go to the fishing planner on our website and type in that water body's name in the search bar. Select that water body from the choices, and all the information about seasons, bag limits, and special rules, if there are any, will pop up. The fishing planner provides a lot more useful fishing information that doesn't pertain to rules, so if you're unfamiliar with it, be sure to check it out. But beware, the fishing planner won't include statewide rules, such as tackle and bait restrictions, only rules that are specific to that water. You can also use a search engine or Siri. Sometimes using your computer or smartphone can help you quickly find the information you need. For example, if you ask, when is the fishing season for Lake Cascade? It may take you to that water and region in the fishing planner. Be sure to check the sources of that information, and if it's not Idaho Fish and Game, avoid it. And lastly, a big, giant disclaimer here. These shortcuts are intended to be helpful, but it's still your responsibility to know all the rules. And the Seasons and Rules booklet is the ultimate source for that. The shortcuts are intended to give you an easier way to find specific information, but be sure you're familiar with statewide rules such as bait restrictions, tackle restrictions, and the number of lines you can use, and etc. And with that, it's time for the Rapid Fire Bulletin. Idaho Fish and Game is gathering public input on the 2025 through 2026 moose, bighorn sheep, and mountain goat season proposals, and the comment period will run through January 9th, 2025 at 6 p.m. Proposals can be found at idfg.idaho.gov/comment. The public comment process will also include open houses hosted at Fish and Game's regional offices and other venues at the times and dates listed on our website. Staff at some regions will host a meeting and provide an overview of the proposals, while others will hold office hours where folks can stop in and talk to a biologist during that time. Hit the link if you want to learn more. Fish and Game conservation officers are asking people for information about a large bull elk that was shot out of season and left to waste near Pollock. On Friday, December 6th, Fish and Game received a report from a hunter that they found a mature trophy-class bull elk carcass on national forest land behind the Whitewater Wilderness Ranch and near the Whitebird Ridge Road in Unit 23. Conservation Officer James Hohenstreet responded to the area and was taken to the carcass by the hunter. After conducting an initial investigation, Hohenstreet determined that the elk had been shot sometime between November 28th and December 4th. At that time, there were no open seasons for antlered elk in Unit 23, and they had been closed for nearly a month. If anyone has information about this incident, please call Conservation Officer James Hohenstreet at 208-616-0881 or the Citizens Against Poaching hotline at 1-800-632-5999. After weeks of sightings, a young black bear cub was trapped and relocated out of Ketchum by Fish and Game biologists on December 12, 2024. The cub had been reported several times by residents in downtown Ketchum. Many times these reports were of the bear getting access to residential garbage and other food sources such as bird feeders. The young bear had started to show signs of wanting to den under decks, which prompted Fish and Game to trap the bear and relocate it to a more suitable black bear habitat. For more information about how to keep Idaho bears wild, contact your local Fish and Game office. And that's all the news we have for this week. Thanks for putting an ear to Idaho Fish and Game's Hook and Bulletin. If there's something on your mind, or if you got a question related to Fish and Game matters, feel free to drop us a line at podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Again, that's podcast@idfg.idaho.gov. Thanks for listening, folks. We'll catch you next week.